Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby! Hello! Welcome back to another Monday. How's everyone doing, first of all? I haven't spoken to many of you for a few weeks now. It's been a while, right? So it was a bank holiday the week previously, and last week, I'll be honest, I just didn't really want to do an episode. I've had some bad stuff at work happen, and I sat down on Monday night, looked at the setup and everything, had everything pretty much ready to go, but I just didn't feel in the mood to talk to people that particular day. Certainly not about Somewhere Some Fire. But yeah, cool. Hello, says Kellen. Nice to see you around. Doing grand, Mickey. How about me? Well, hopefully, Carly, that's given you a bit of an answer there. Crone says he's adequate. Well, that's a good thing, right? Adequate is good, or is adequate just okay? West Coast Bannerman is salty. Salty because you're a Greyjoy, or salty just because of the crushing? Both. Yeah, it's good to talk to you guys. It's good to be back. Good to be talking about the game a little bit more. And there's a lot to talk about, right? So talk about some stuff, give my kind of thoughts, opinions, and stuff. And it's all good news, right? It's all good news. We'll look after ourselves at time. Yeah, take time. Yeah, potentially. Sometimes that is required, Carly. Timu signed up for Polish Nationals. Awesome, Timu. Also, I don't know if I'll be attending Polish Nationals. I kind of got an update on that, I guess, if I haven't shared it before. But yeah, Polish Nationals probably not where I'm heading off. But I know that a couple of the other English guys are going to Polish Nationals. Carly says they don't think there's anything to talk about. I've noticed a distinct lack of articles from you, Carly, over the last week. And that may have just been me not being aware, but like, I'd like to think I'm still aware, even though I'm a lot less aware than I was like a few weeks ago. Is this episode dedicated to how OP Night's Watch is, and good news is all their nerfs are coming? No, this is not an episode dedicated to Night's Watch. If there's one thing that I want to say is that I will not be talking about balance that much for a while. So yeah. At least 3 of us from True North coming. Good. No articles means life get in the way. Yep. Life does get in the way. I'm going to US Nationals. Yeah, Crones. So that's the plan. Yeah, I'm going to US Nationals. I have been given permission by my partner, definitely now. And I have the flights kind of mapped out, how it impacts my kind of work and everything else going on. So yeah, I am looking to make the trip. I'm waiting on confirmation of one small thing because I haven't got the confirmation yet. But essentially everything else is now pretty much planned in. And once I get this last little thing through, the flights will be 100% booked, among other things. So yeah, it's just waiting to hear back from that last thing. So yeah. You qualified last week, Crones. Awesome. Yeah, hopefully have a burst. Hopefully it'll be a good time. That's what it's for, isn't it? Cool. Alrighty then. Alrighty, what else we got? Mickey won't come to Poland because he's afraid of falling in love with pierogies and kielbasa. Probably. I have no idea what those two things are, but I will have a look. Kellen, awesome. See you there. Awesome. Good to see people. Play some games as well, of course. That's the main reason. But no, spend some days in Oh, pierogies. Yeah, I know what pierogies are. Yeah, obviously I'm mainly coming across to play some games, but it will be my first visit to the US. So it would be an experience, put it like that. Maybe not Carl, but not for my big brain or tiny brain, my tiny brain. It's mostly because I know that they struggled to fit more people in from the super regionals, right? If the super regionals was significantly larger, which is what they were opening for nationals, then they might not fit everyone in. Okay. Okie dokie then. So, shall we dive in? Shall we dive into some stuff to talk about? I suppose we should talk about. Yeah, I know, right? First time to the US, and I'm going to Minnesota. What a sadness. First of all, we should talk about if anyone hasn't seen in the ranking, Kosa has just made a relatively big jump up, and for those of you who don't know, it wasn't a big event in Poland. It was actually quite a small event in Poland, but it's quite an interesting event in Poland. It's not here actually; it's in the currents. And I do recommend you check it out, mostly because it was the Hegemonial Grand Tournament, they called it. And it was designed there to try and get as many people in as they could, and had it open to a huge number of players. There's other events going on in the same sports hall. But then you got 14 players, right? And you're probably thinking, Mike, why is Mickey making a big point of a 14-player event? It's because if you look at the 14 players that turned up, it's actually quite a really good mix. You've got Kosa, who's up there, Sławek, obviously Sławek, winner of LGT 2 years in a row. Larks, name that people around here may or may not have heard of before. Furioku or Masara, again a name that people may not have heard of before. Yannick, tank over from Tabletop Warden, was over there. We also had Bloodraven. Fenio, if the people who know Fenio is another good performing Polish player as well. So anyway, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in a 14-player event who are all pretty good. Certainly all players that myself, Carlo, would rate as good players. Which is really interesting to see such a small event. And they played, for 14 players, they played 7 rounds, right? So, generally speaking, you look at like the players here, Furioku, Greszalk, Jax, Yannick, Sławek, Larks, Bloodraven. We look at Sławek, we see Rickman, Shaw, Jax, Shaw, Fenio, Larks, Kosa, Bloodraven, tank, right? And as Arteza Warwisniak, I'm going to try and pronounce that wrong, Wozniak, says, the average ELO was 1675, right, which is a high average ELO. And yes, 7 rounds, Crones. They played 7 rounds over the 2 days and really just absolutely hashed it out. And there was only 1 player who entered with Greyjoys, and they won with Greyjoys. On secondaries, admittedly, no player went undefeated, which is kind of a good thing to see at a high level. And also going undefeated, winning it with Greyjoys as well. So nuts, right? Absolutely nuts to see that. And it's not even like a traditional Greyjoy list, so enjoy looking at this Asher list, which he did run for the majority of the time as Asher. He ran the Theon list once. That is a no Greyjoy Bowman Asher list. Enjoy. 7 activations. I mean, kudos where kudos is due. Well played to Kosa for that. His Theon list, by the way, for reference, was that a bit unarchetypical. Moving into some stuff that doesn't often see play. How do you do it, Evil? Basically, the list, I think, by the sounds of it, it just was unkillable. People tried to kill it and tried to fight it and perhaps realised that they couldn't. Which is a very kind of common thing for this list to do. So yeah, and it got 1 loss. It lost to Varamir at the very start of the event. It beat a Benjen. It beat a Stannis. And then it proceeded a really narrow win against Yannick's Lannisters. It beat Baratheons quite wholehandedly. Beat Larks fairly well. And then the game against Bloodraven looked like it was utter sadness at the end there. So, yeah, do have a little look at that event. There's a lot to learn from it. I'm not going to sit here and say Greyjoy's OP, Greyjoy's OP. And I do think it's very interesting that his Greyjoy list, although running Asher, the Black Tide Chosen making an appearance to Drown Men, this NCU setup as well. This is something certainly coming across, and these are all things that people have been considering building into lists, and I think it's really interesting to see him put together and do well. Anyway, do have a look. As I say, it's only a 14-player event, but there are some really good players in there, really mixing it up with list types and things like that. So there's a lot to be kind of like gauged from what we consider maybe good or bad. I personally think, myself. All right. So that was the first thing I want to mention. There was also the Russian national event. If those of you who didn't see the Russian national event, the Russian national event was also run, and it got 32 players, if I recall correctly. 36 players. I apologize. 36 players across the Russian kind of like scene. Won by Naz, iJimbo coming fourth, Friendly Fact Octopus coming up high as well. Trying to think of other names. Lordic coming in 14th. Lordic, someone who does tend to win a lot of his local events, so it's interesting to see his performance there. Yeah, it's a real good mix. I recommend looking at that. And it was a double Night's Watch that came first, second, but of course, second through to sixth were all on one loss there, so it's a bit of a mix there. So those two big events there held and run. If you weren't paying attention to the stats, if you weren't aware of those, one big event and one interesting event, do have a little look at them, see if there's anything from there you might want to gauge, learn from. Generally have a little gander. Let's go back to chat. I haven't actually read the chat for a while. The real question is, says Stephen, what am I bringing? I haven't decided yet. We'll see when closer to the time. One of my armies is travel safe. The other one is annoying as hell to travel with. So, say too bad first time to US and it's Minnesota. Nothing particularly against Minnesota. It isn't precisely the premier place to visit from overseas. I know data. Take some balls not to use Greyjoy Activation Crutch. Yeah, definitely. This list might not be relevant in a few months, says Evil. Yeah, more on that in a second. Nice. Greyjoy's my man. I say the last patch, BTC, have been making more and more appearances. Yeah, I wasn't sure the BTC change was going to be amazing, and then I started building Greyjoy lists and was like, no, this is actually really handy. This is what you need to include in at least one of your lists. Maybe both, I don't know. And I haven't fully set on my own kind of like version of it as to how I'd run it. Although I do quite like my Balon list, even though I think it needs an improvement. Yannick Rue's list was interesting. One-shot combo done right. Oh, interesting. I am actually going to have a look at that. So, Yannick's Rue's list. Okay, yeah, so he goes to the Turncoat, Tywin. The Turncoat, Tywin, Knights of Castle Rock, Glory Seeker, or you can use the Clegane Brigands or something like that as well. Because they're on Kevin, and I'm guessing that's for cleansing condition tokens. Yeah, I still don't think Kevin is good. I think this is a garbage NCU, but he's going for the reliable one shot with Roos, Commander, and like I can see it happening. Yeah, you just charge across. Yeah, it's just kind of like, I'm gonna kill you here. Carlo points out that it's a bit of a mix for Russian. I've got back at Russian. I should probably open these on tabs, shouldn't I? Night's Watch, Free Fake. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's not a bit of a mix in this particular category in the top 6, or even top 7 if you include the person with a draw. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of Night's Watch in the top there. So let's just have a look at the stats there. Oof, Night's Watch 64%. Free Fake at 57, which I admit is probably quite low to what I would think. Free Fake, in my opinion, is at 60%, so it's kind of lower, or within deviation. Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise. It's kind of like performances where you'd expect performances to be kind of. Night's Watch obviously getting a much higher performance rate than has previously been seen in events. What's interesting for me is Lannisters dropping off maybe the gas a little bit in Russia. I think Lannisters have been in a weird situation where they're not pulling what we thought they should be able to pull. And it really is the more you deviate away from like the traditional kind of like I say traditional, but the strong things that we know, I think the weaker the lists become basically. And when I say the weaker, I mean like considerably weaker. Um, it's only going to have a look over at the power rankings quickly, which we haven't done in some time. We'll talk about this in a second, but I also find this is hilarious. But yeah, like Roos is up here, and I'm guessing Kevin's just around about here. Oh mate, Kevin's dropped. Kevin's dropped to 36 points. I thought it was slightly higher in the 40s. But yeah, 6 and 2 threes. It's good. It's interesting to see that the gap between Kevin and Roos is not kind of like changing now. Roos is very much solidifying himself as the best Lannister commander. Kevin not so much. But certainly you're probably your second commander, or first and second, whatever orientation you want to run him in. Yeah, so you run the turncoat for no cards. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely options there. Yeah, so the funny thing here is to find that, like, me and Carlo have said many, many a time that we don't really fully understand why Eldon is so amazing, and Eldon has actually gone up since the patch that nerfed him. Can we believe that? Can you actually believe that? The patch that nerfed Eldon has meant that he's improved. Like, I have no words. Yeah, he wins games, and I can't tell you why. And I imagine the why is I'm just going to load it. This is a random game, right? I'm not going to look at this list until I say what I probably think's in it. 1 or 2 champions of the Stag, with maybe Glory Seekers, maybe some units of Wardens, maybe a supply unit. I don't know. Probably Elena, probably Courtney. I don't care, right? Point in case, I have no idea what's in this list, but I bet you it's something like that. Alright, so he's gone for Champions, Hedge Knights, Double Glory Seeker, okay. Marjorie, Baelish, Courtney, fair enough, so he went for the 3/4s. Let's look at this one. Wonderman versus Mark. Wow! Okay, he actually runs a double Rose Knight list. Kudos to him. Double Rose Knights, 2 NCUs. Like, wow, that's amazing. Tree Ferret. Absolutely amazing list. I know he lost, but Rose Knights with Eldon, Rose Knights with Thorn, Rose Knights with Thorn. God, that feels like it shouldn't be activated. Oh, it's a 50-point list. I was gonna say that feels like it shouldn't be 40 points. That it isn't 40 points. Stag Knights. Wow, I take it back. I was wrong. Champions of the Stag are not winning games for Eldon. Maybe they are. Maybe if I only looked at the wins. Champions of the Stag are making it into a lot of these wins. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to just sit here and look at... there we go. There's a non-Champions Stag win. But anyway, he's doing well. Can't tell you why. Like, people say Battle Endurance is really good. And it is. Like, Battle Endurance is a good card. But I know that last time we spoke, me and Carlo were just, like, completely unimpressed by Eldon. And yet he's still rated the highest commander in the game. And his deviation is plus 90, right, from the faction. Which is kind of scary because Varamir's is only plus 46. Right? Free Folk is a stronger faction. But Eldon takes a kind of struggling faction. I say struggling, they're not struggling that much, currently in 4th place. But it takes a faction that's generally been off the pace a little bit. And it puts the absolute gas into them, and I still cannot tell you why Eldon does that. Whereas Varamir takes a faction that's decent and just makes it improved. I personally think Varamir should be Eldon, like, in a theoretical sense, like, almost 100% of the time. So, yeah. Steer's also not bad into Eldon as well. I don't know. There we go. There we go for you. Let's have a look at my boy Mance. How many games has he played in May? 40. God, his win rate fell off a... Oh, his pick rate, sorry, not his win rate. His pick rate fell off a cliff, didn't it? Nah, people don't play things that aren't strong. Sad truth. Yeah, so surprised Elder continue to hang on despite the straight nerfs to his typical build plus patch. Yep. Maybe the nerf to Warcry means less vulnerable tokens, which means people are struggling to deal with Eldon's armor. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not the lack of vulnerable, it's actually probably the lack of panic tokens, right? The lack of panic tokens means that people are doing damage through the armor with the vulnerables, but that's what they're having to place out, not the panic tokens. There's also the Glory Seeker change now for Stubborn Tenacity actually lowers the amount of damage they take, which is arguably better than Rally Cry healing, right? Proactively reducing damage is better than reactively healing it, generally speaking. The problem is having a 1 better armor isn't necessarily proactively improving your survivability, right? Taking reduced damage is. Having a better armor means you tend to take less damage, and if you tend to take less damage, it's better. But like, just a flat up, I take 1 less damage from failed panic tests is actually a big thing, right? I think people underestimate this, and I know that me and Carlo, many moons ago, spoke about the Walrus Chieftain and the changes to the Walrus Chieftain having Iron Resolve, and how Carlo spoke about Iron Resolve, and Iron Resolve in general is a very good ability because that reduction in damage is so high, and yet it doesn't feel like it should be high, but it is like impactfully high. So maybe like nerfing COTS, believe it or not, and nerfing Hardened was needed, but it just feels weird. Just feels really weird. Designers got it right. Yeah, this is the thing. So the option to take 0 is very good. Exactly. So exactly my point, Evan. The opportunity to just take 0 wounds from a given test, and I don't mean a panic test, but like you mentioned shield that guards the realm, and men, for example, in Night's Watch, you only get 1 hit. Well, I'll get to roll to block it, but then I will just block it anyway. So like, there's a chance that I just take no damage, and that is huge. Like that is way better than other things. Like Hardened was already pretty good. The difference with Hardened, because it was static, is that people kind of worked around it, and people learned how to play against Hardened. Shield the Guards of Realms of Men is another static. It is played around, but it's a lot harder to play around than a lot of other things. You know, one of the things, Hardened Wardens is a classic example. They roll 4 dice. You don't really care. Like, you can just kind of like stop them attacking you if you get them down to 1 rank, or stop them doing any significant damage. And as long as you're not on 1 rank yourself, you're probably going to survive. And if you're probably surviving, you're probably going to be contesting or holding the objective you want to anyway, because there's on 1 rank as well. So, yeah, I don't know. Stuff and things in it. I did say I wasn't going to talk about the balance. We still live in a world where, you know, Jon Snow does incredibly well at major tournaments and still struggles to make it up the list. He's made significant gains. I say significant. He went up 6 points, which is kind of significant in the last 50. But it's not hugely significant. It's not like the 10s, 12s that we've seen other people rise up. And even then, he's dropped off the mark a little bit in the recent kind of games. So yeah, it's one thing we can say is the meta is generally fairly settled in that the faction rankings, I would say, are fairly accurate. In that Free Folk are the best faction, which I think is just true. Neutrals are the worst faction. I think that's just true. Night's Watch and Martell are solidly in second place. I say second, but like in second tier. They batter around a little bit, but they are staying up there near the top. You've kind of got Baratheon and Lannister, who are, I think personally, Baratheon and Lannister are forming a third tier. In that Baratheon and Lannister seem to do well for a period of time and then drop off the gas and then come back up and drop off, and it's like 60-60, right? Look, or 50-50. It just doesn't feel that they're able to both consistently have good months. So maybe Lannister and Baratheon are both presenting builds or styles or gameplay options that are strong, but are not able to maintain that into necessarily a lot of things. So yeah, Free Folk top, Night's Watch Martell second, Baratheon Lannister probably in third. Greyjoys are just Greyjoys. They are bouncing all over the shop. Sometimes they're low and like they're now down by Starks. Sometimes they're up and they're like challenging Night's Watch and Martell almost, like they're hot on their heels, roughly where Lannisters Baratheons sit right now. So Greyjoys are just kind of like, I would say, a middling faction. They have builds and things that work. They have things that really don't work. And if you throw in the things that don't work, you drop points. If you run the things that do work, the tried and tested methods, you do fine. But they struggle into those really meta side stuff. Targs are Targs. They are still bizarre and broken, and no one really knows what they're doing. I say broken, I don't mean broken as in OP. I mean broken as in like no one actually. There's no consistency with them. And Starks are just sadness. At least Eddard and Greyjoy are still floating near the top. Where have we got? I say floating near the top. They're actually fallen off quite a bit. Eddard used to be up here. He's dropped down significantly in the rankings. It's not many points, but in terms of ranking positions, it's quite a few. Yeah, so Greyjoy down here at just negative. Wow. Wow, so Greyjoy's fallen negative and Eddard fallen negative as well. So right, no, they have fallen quite a long way. Because Eddard and Greyjoy used to both be positive, even though the faction was negative. Yeah. Maybe playing more Starks. Maybe it's what I need to do. Play some more Starks. Dan, I'm going to borrow your Starks from now on. So yeah, there you go, if you haven't looked at that. Should we dive into the actual news that people want to talk about then? Which is this thing here. Dun 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 dun. Let's... Can I hide the chat replay? I can. Can I make this video bigger? I can. There we go. That's what we want to do, innit? I'm not going to replay the video, guys. I'm just going to scan through. I also took screenshots of this as the video went through and made a little kind of like reveals thing to make it all, put it all in one place. But this actually shows nicer on here on YouTube. Cool artwork for Roose and Ramsay. Cool sculpts for Roose and Ramsay. Thumbs up. My wife plays Elden a lot as she's learning the game, and his battle plan is pretty simple compared to most commanders. The one wound from Glorious Seeker also adds up over the course of the game. Yeah, it does. I hope Targs get an overhaul. I have like 2 or 3 builds I'm pretty confident playing into almost anything, and then the rest feels terrible. Evan says, Mickey, this is news from a week ago, ancient. Yeah, I know, right? It happened on Tuesday. It happened on Tuesday. Classic. Tourney Ground on a Monday, Simon News on a Tuesday. How? I didn't even do Tourney Ground on a Monday, so, you know, I guess. Anyway, so, other sculpts we see Jane, Fatwalder, and Reek. Reek is a resculpt. They're not resculpt, the same sculpt before. Awesome, good stuff. Looks good, right? Have a quick drink. They did mention about once per game abilities for one of these 2 NCUs that may do something quite impactful. Speculation as to what that might be, but nothing from Michael Chanel or Fabio regarding that. So this is all just the Bolton stuff, just quickly recapping what we already know. The awesome cutthroat sculpts, which I do like the cutthroat sculpts. They look hunky, chunky, and like they look like Northmen should look, not the old cruel boys and girls who look really thin. So that looks really good. We've got the new Blackguard as well, which are much better models than... They are by far much better models than the old Blackguard. And we also get to see a much nicer collection of the Dreadfort Bowman, as well as the Flayer and the Dreadfort Captain. So they're all there as well. Looking good. Looking good. We saw the same cards and everything was discussed, and... Everything was mentioned. And then they did actually talk about, and they got it wrong first, and then they recorrected it. Kudos. Can Bolton still take other neutral units? To which they said yes. Then, when they saw the question later on, they went, no. yeah, they new Boltons can't take neutral units in them, which is interesting. It locks them out of the Bloody Mummers and of the Stormcrows and of Golden Company. This is interesting. It means their NCU lineup is going to be weird for a while. Because they're getting Hero Box 1, but like they're a mini faction. They might not get a significant number of further releases, which means their NCU selection might be really low for a while. Like a long while. And if their NCU selection is really low, that will force certain builds out of them because they don't have access to NCU, neutral NCUs, right? And yeah, it also, as Post says, locks them out of Peter Baelish. I don't personally think Peter Baelish is required, but you know, Peter Baelish is still one of the strongest NCUs. It also locks them out of Tycho, as Evan says. Tycho also being a very strong performing NCU still. Now his 5-point price point. Yeah. It's an interesting design choice. We'll see how it kind of goes. We'll see how it kind of like pans out. They talked about the Dreadfort Spearmen, who, by the sounds of it, have a mechanic that's awfully similar to Silence Men, with the -1 aura type thing, totem pole or something like that. Or I don't know. They mentioned something about it. Speculation. Did they say why it was this way to avoid nuisance? I think they just said it because they could Post. I think they've just said that they don't want neutrals to be in Boltons. They went through all of this and I so far I was kind of like I'd listened to most of this and I was like, yeah, cool, whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's just the news. They're updating us, the same stuff as the Super Regional. And then they did this bit, and I was like, oh, so it's the same information as the Super Regional. And Adam said something very interesting. He said, essentially on the lines of, the LGT ran last year, it was amazing, they got like 130 people. We didn't get 130, as much as that would have been amazing. But he did actually specifically call out the LGT and say the LGT, the guys in the UK, which is really refreshing to hear. He also then mentioned Poland. He also mentioned the support this year from Poland. He couldn't remember if it's Poland or France that were doing big ones from last year. He said like Poland and France got over 100, and I was like, yep, brilliant. He was talking about all those communities which we've talked about, all those people and those groups that have run these big events, and he was actually referencing them properly. Sure, his information wasn't necessarily 100% correct, but he knew about what they'd done, and he was trying to put some thanks in it. Now, this to me is not a like, oh my god, this is amazing, but like, it was the first time that Simon on an official stream like this have ever really given proper kudos to other communities in the world. Like, the Spanish community does this. The Polish community has been doing this, and that's great. The English community is doing this. The French community is doing this. You know, he mentioned Sweden and Finnish nationals, I believe, as well. Like, and those national events aren't that big. You know, they're 30 players or so, which by all means is a good size event. But like, we're not talking the 100 plus, 64 plus size events here. We're talking about a 30 player good size event, and Adam was aware, acknowledging it, and respecting that. And for me, as a player of the game who doesn't live in a certain area of the world, I felt that this was a big step forward from Simon. Simon were acknowledging the work and willing to accept the work, and it really capitalized itself when Adam spoke about LVO. Now, you're probably thinking, why is that even the shining moment for me? Shining moment for me is that Adam basically said, I'm sorry that it's taken a while to get prize support out to you. In a public forum, he actively said, I am sorry about this situation. He didn't say that they were at fault, that's fine, but he apologized for the situation. he said that they were working with third-party distributors and other things like that, and said that was part of the reason as to why the price support wasn't given out. But the key thing is that he understood what the community was frustrated about. He apologized not for making a mistake, but he apologized for the situation the players were in, and recognizes the issues that they had faced. As a brand manager, as a face of the game, Adam won a lot of points with me on this stream. Like, a lot. I think that Adam is... We will see. We will see by performance. We'll see over long periods of time. But now that he's actually in place and he's doing his job, I have a feeling that he is making significant impact on certain aspects of it. And I think he's a lot more aware as well of the situations than I think other people have been. I think that Adam is a breath of fresh air that has been required. And actually, I think this would be beneficial to Michael as well, Michael and Fabio, in that they no longer have to take the brunt of the kind of forward-facing design side of the game. They can focus on what they're actually good at, rather than having to do the bit they're perhaps not as good at. And that's not to say that Michael or Fabio should stop appearing on streams, but as time goes on, Helena and Adam taking kind of like the lead on the streams, with Michael and Fabio then being able to present ideas and design kind of development ideas. That would be, I think, fantastic. And I think the dynamic will be much better as well. So I'll have a quick break here before we talk about the next thing. Crone says, I thought the community chat was a huge success. For the best part, wasn't even the Bolton update details. There's the news on their plans to support the community in the tournaments. Yeah, I mean, that's what they ran through at the Super Regionals. But yeah. Anything else? Adam's doing a great job. Sounds like Adam has a stats account. Maybe he does. Rip Iron Makers. Adam is the new MVP. Adam's been a pleasure to work with. When I've been in positive communication with him, sometimes it takes off and doesn't even get a response, but he always come through in the end. Mickey gets to play US Nationals and all of a sudden he's been drinking the Kool-Aid. Hashtag sellout. The competitive scene would be so much better with Adam. I mean, I will address Carl's comment there. It's not... I mean, obviously he says this in jest. And it's like the bait. Got him. But this is the thing. Like, I'm obviously aware that I am now sounding very positive about the game. But this leads into the bit that I am actually positive about, which is... And it's kind of annoying, because we've wanted 6-month updates for a while. And they go on in the same stream to say, by the way, we're bringing you an update. And it's going to be August, September-ish. That's all we got. It's going to be like Q3, Q4, right? But that is, if you account for the small update that didn't feel complete, which they kind of admitted was incomplete on the stream, by the way. They said that was mostly nerfs. They're now looking at buffs. And they're planning to release it roughly 6 months after the first patch. I think the first patch was a cop-out. But they're doing kind of what the community has wanted, which is they are providing regular updates for us if they can deliver on time. And here's the crutch, right? Here's the crutch. If they can deliver on time. If they can deliver this update by, let's say, September. If they can deliver this update by September, then that size of the update, they said it seemed to be quite large. They gave inklings that it would be a large update. But that would be this kind of like 2 yearly update cycle that we've kind of said once updating every 6 months would be great for the game. It's not necessarily where we want, but updating every 6 months would be great for the game. And they may be updating every 6 months. Like, that is good for the game. We can debate the effectiveness of the updates. We can debate the quality of the updates, the content of the updates. But, they're they're moving towards what is a good thing. If they go through a nerf update and then a buff update every year, it's not amazing. I think they should be at a buff and nerf at the same time, to be honest. But I'll take that. I'll take that for now. As a positive, moving in the right direction, right? And this is where it all comes back to. These things are moving in the right direction. Are they perfect? No. Are they where the community really, really wants them to be? No. Is there still quite large issues with some aspects of what is being presented and what we deal with? Yeah, there are. But it's a move in the right direction, and moves in the right direction have to be at least acknowledged and said, you know what, it's a good move. The outcome of the move, as I say, can be analysed independently and separately. We'll see. We will see, won't we? We will see. So let's go through the actual update now. We're only 40 minutes in, and I haven't even spoken about the first update, which is the House Tully Cavaliers. Some people can't read, was the thing I learned very quickly from this, in that people didn't realise that this had dropped from 6 to 5 morale. So there you go. There's the first thing. If you can't read, this number here says 5+. It used to say 6+ when it used to have Bolton. That was surprisingly common. Like, surprisingly common. Data now just to partner with a print-on-demand company, so people who want their printed cards and do them if they want for a reasonable price. Ah, yes, print-on-demand, the thing that never arrived. Doom Eagle, they need to drip feed us information due to GW going deep into their new edition. Give us the hype. The problem is, Doom, if they drip feed, what you end up doing is killing the current community. If the current community sees improvements in the game state, then the current community stops playing. Like that, we've seen that. We've literally seen that. So you've got to be very, very careful with that line of kind of like communication, if you will. But it would be good if they were to keep some communication coming. I agree. Carly says this is broken. OP, 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 OP. OP, 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 OP. I'm not sold. Like, when I say I'm not sold, like, I don't think this is OP. I think this is actually roughly equivalent to Embolden. Right? Across a whole game, I think this is equivalent to Embolden. Because it doesn't help you pass tests. And remember that passing a panic test is the equivalent of healing. Let's just assume you fail every test, then every time you pass is the equivalent of healing some number. Right? This doesn't help you pass. And it's not. Yeah, there's a whole lot to discuss about this. Really, I have to break it down. This doesn't help other units pass tests, and other units passing tests was the point of Embolden, basically. Embolden helping the own unit was the point, but realistically, you could have just printed it with a 5+ morale and not given Embolden to somebody else, which they've now basically done. They've basically said, we couldn't print this with 5 before because Embolden pushed it to 4 and that was a problem. So now instead we just print it with a 5 because it doesn't have Embolden. Right? The effective change is that House Tully Cavaliers haven't changed. That is a buff in the sense of like they've improved the base stat. And it also means that switching off Embolden now is less effective. But I think so few people switched off Embolden, it was untrue. Like people simply just didn't switch off Embolden that often. Right. So, there's the first thing. Second thing. Rally Banner on panic tests is like equivalent to Embolden, basically. Right? The maths was done on it, and it's really dubious as to which one's more effective, and it really maths out so close. I think it's like within 0.5 of a wound or something like that, across X number of tests. So like it's dubious as to if it's significantly helping you or not. The metric that goes unseen, or the metric it's incalculable at the moment, right? It's incalculable at the moment because we don't know the other changes coming. But let's use something like She-Bears with Warcry. Rally Banner does trigger off morale tests. Morale tests factoring in is big because you obviously have what we've just discussed in Warcry. You have other aspects where this might be useful. I know that people were saying, Winterfell Guardian combos in this for like heal dealing, that kind of thing. Yeah, potentially a Winterfell Guardian, but that's like exactly the same as like the Golden Company, the Glory Seekers and stuff being used at the moment. So there's all very much of a muchness there going on. But right, and I think this is the big one. I think the big one is going to be morale tests, not panic tests, and the manipulation of morale tests in game states, including taking on charges where you then have to take a panic test, deliberately designed so you can heal off the back of it. With good morale units. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting because so you can force heal where it could be a good thing, could be good, but why? Well, because morale tests are an uncalculatable, right? This is the thing. It being on morale tests, on panic tests, it's a calculatable thing, right? You can factor it into an attack, but you're the one who is. The vast majority of panic tests you take are from your own. From your opponent giving them to you, right? You don't often take many of your own. Like that, you do take some, but the simple truth of the matter is you don't take many. You do take morale tests, usually of your own volition, and usually inside your own control. If you can manipulate the number of morale tests you're taking with your list, this ability might suddenly get very good. So I just want people to be aware of that. Even though it is iterative healing, and one wound here and there is not a big deal, but it might be. And Belisarius, Kurt says Starks have been want for healing. Yes, they have. I think it's a good change. It helps Starks down the last 2 ranks. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. We don't know the other changes, right? This is completely in isolation. And I would propose this. If you told me there was an ability called Rally Banner in the game, this would not be the only unit that gets an ability called Rally Banner. Tallywankers, yeah. If an ability called Rally Banner exists in the game, I am almost, and I can't prove this, I am so convinced that this is something that a Renly side commander would have. Or a Renly side unit. I don't know. I'm speculating. This is complete conjecture. But the choice of the word Rally Banner really does make me think, God, this could so easily be. Because the wording, Embolden was on Charismatic Air, not Charismatic Air, I can't remember. Yeah, it was Charismatic Air, wasn't it? Yeah. I could very easily see Rally Banner being inside Baratheon. And I don't know if that makes things better or worse, but it might do some weird things there with Baratheons. We were speaking about Elden before, weren't we? We'll see. SSS on the last rank, passes panic, heals +1, no rerolls now. Well, possibly change it to may restore. Yeah, that would be sadness, wouldn't it? I'm on 4 wounds. But after just taking some damage. Better. I can't die from this panic test. I'd really like to fail it and take 1. No, I pass it and heal 1, and now I'm on 5 wounds, and I no longer get my rerolls. Sadness. But you do gain like an extra dice, right? So 6 2 3s. Just buy attachments to give you rerolls. Duh. Don't do that. That's not good advice. Don't do that. Actually, maybe it's good advice. Maybe I don't know anything about the game. It might be good advice, but don't just because I said it don't mean it's a good thing. Obviously, right? Don't everything I say is not good, right? No, yeah, whatever. Hopefully they don't just replace all of Embolden with Rally Banner. Yeah, I agree, Daniel. That's actually the alternative that they might do. And they might do that. I wouldn't think they'd do that, but they might just replace flat out all Embolden with Rally Banner. Yeah. If they do, I'd be pretty sad, but hey. Whatever. Alright, so it's Telecavaliers. It's definitely a buff. Yeah, but I don't know how much of a buff it is for stuff that isn't Cavaliers. If that's what I'm saying. This next one. I'll be honest with you, this confused me, right? This confused me not because I thought that Dothraki Outriders were bad anyway, or didn't need a helping hand. I just think it's a weird decision to go it. Like, this is a very weird route to go, in my opinion, right? It's really weird that the Outriders have gone from basically copying part of Jorah's ability with the precision. Like, it's obviously an improvement. But, like, why was this the improvement they thought to make to Outriders? Like, precision in general is, like, the weakest keyword. Especially without rerolls. Like, this feels unnecessarily punishing towards armor-based factions. Doesn't necessarily increase their overall damage significantly. Against, most targets. And it pushes Targs into... Yeah, I mean, let's draw give rerolls to something else. Yeah, sure. But, like... The problem you've got is that, like... I just feel Targs are now... Targs are now becoming the anti-armor tech faction, right? It's like, we've got dragons, they deal with armor. We have rerolls and precision from Jorah, we deal with armor. We now get precisions on our long ranged attacks. That kind of deals with armor. Like, but it doesn't really deal with armor. Like, it's not actually a very effective. Yeah. I don't know. Right? Not the keyword for me. Not really the thing that I'd have thought was a significant buff. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but like, I just don't know. Precision on Outriders is like fine. It's fine. I'm not going to say it's a nerf. It obviously isn't a nerf. It's obviously a buff. I just don't really know what direction this is supposed to be saying, and like, I'm reading into it a little bit perhaps, but like, this says to me that there's going to be a lot of other things changing in Targs to change things around a bit. Maybe Scout Openings is going to take a nerf. Maybe. But I think that would be weird because they talked about basically giving things buffs. Alright, should we move on to the next thing? This next one, everyone was like, that's amazing. Thornwatch now hitting 3 in melee when they used to hit on 4. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care at all. I just don't care. Can we just move on to the next thing? I think I can do that, can't I? I'm in control here. I can just move on to the next thing. People still talk about Targs, punishes them for moving. Yeah, Mads, I mean, it's the same ability you used to have, though. Something that leaned into more mobile. Yeah, okay. Targs need a deck rework. Yeah, exactly. Just more direction in the deck. Like, more clarity, easier to things to use and stuff like that. Kurt says Stormwatch were already good. Yeah. Yeah, so the Thornwatch change, right? I just don't care. Like, I don't care that they hit on threes now. It sounds really weird. Like, usually they were charging something if they were looking to use their melee attack, or they were melee attacking because they have Swift Strike Regroup. They are not melee attacking because they want to do significant damage. And if you do significant damage, you might kill your opponent, then there's nothing to retreat from, and you might not be able to heal. Yes, that's very specific. Generally speaking, killing the enemy is a good thing. But, like, sometimes there really isn't a good thing, because it's like, I just killed a unit, and now I can't heal, and I'm just a sitting duck to get killed. Whereas if you killed a unit with your attack profile and needed the heal to survive, the chances were that you probably could have killed that with so many other things. Yeah, I don't know. The 3+ is fine. Like, obviously it's an improvement. It's obviously a buff, but like, I still just don't know why you're charging with Thornwatch to do damage. Like, you have a short-range crossbow for a reason. If you're using that because you don't want to proc things like diversion tactics, you want the sundering to affect your attacks. There are lots of different reasons. But now the metrics are like, actually, against targets, you probably just want to charge with your longsword, depending on if your opponent has retaliation effects. Like, if there's nothing that punishes melee attacks, then you can probably just melee attack them now. It's probably better if the opportunity is there and if you're going to get your rerolls and so on and so forth, right? And this moves them. It moves them into a real hybrid role in that, like, they almost feel a bit more huntery now. In that, I'll charge when it's good to charge. I'll shoot when it's good to shoot, and that's fine. Like, it's fine that they wanted to do that, but I kind of think that that's how they were best played anyway. So I don't really know if it changes their role. I don't know. I think it's just because no one used them before. Maybe. No, I think people use Thornwatch. People are starting to use Thornwatch. I enjoy Thornwatch. At 4+ to hit, I think it's fine. Yeah. The thing is, they're there. The reason that they're there, the reason you want this unit is because of that regroup Swift Strike combo. Yeah. I don't know, it's just weird. It's not a massive change, and everyone's like, "Well, amazing," and I'm just like, I just don't care. I just don't think it changes my opinion of this unit that much, really. Like, much. It does change it a little bit. Like, the standing, getting charged, receiving a charge, feels a little bit less feels bad in that you try and attack back and you do actually get some hits now, probably. But yeah, maybe. Good. I was using them before. I'll use them again. They are better. It's a good thing. Like, it's a positive change. They could have been made better, and they were made better. That moves us on to Tywin. And then here they showed a commander update. The funny thing is, they glazed over by far the most important change with Tywin. Like, they just barely spoke about it. And it is by far, and I really do mean this, the most significant change that they have made to this commander. Threaten is good. Threaten is now start of friendly turn. Enemy in long range weaken token. Threaten is now a really good ability. You no longer have to activate to throw a weaken token out. It is just, you're weakened now. Oh. Yeah. Slight mark target. Like, that is so good. Like, so much better. That is like, that's such a better change. Like, it's just nuts how much better that ability is now. Yeah, I have no words. So, hopefully some of the other barrier units get more love than Thornwatch did. Maybe he's Daniel. I think they were a bit embarrassed about threatened. Maybe they were. Maybe they were. They genuinely didn't realise how big the change was to threaten in terms of how the game is played. And it also works with issue commands, yeah, and people saying Vargo buff as well, says Evan. Yeah, potentially. So let's have a look at the two cards. Broken Resolve. An interesting trigger, and it's... Again, the interesting trigger here, it's a morale test, not a panic test. That immediately becomes weakened. The morale test means it's more usable. It works against Warcry, so it's like Warcry punishment. It works against some of the other stuff that we see in the game, like a subjugation test from Lannisters. So you force a subjugation, and if they fail, not only are they losing tactics cards, but they also become weakened. So that's pretty huge. Overall, though, all in all, I don't think Broken Resolve's an incredible card, but I do think Broken Resolve's a fine enough card. It stays on as well until they pass a morale test, which is like very similar to Bribery. It plays into this morale game more heavily, this morale panic game, requiring fails consistently. And we've kind of discussed as to like, are Lannisters necessarily the ones forcing you to fail the most panic tests in the game? And the chances are actually probably not. They're not the most panic based faction. So yeah, I don't know. Broken Resolve is fine. Like it's a fine card. Like I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. It's fine. Exploit Weakness. They said issue commands doesn't change, by the way, by the sounds of it. Exploit Weakness, I'm really not sure about. It's a very easy trigger. It's just you make an attack, you become vulnerable. If the defender's weakened, you can reroll dice. You can kind of set that up with Threaten. You can threaten the enemy. You can then charge them. You can exploit them for vulnerable rerolls. Yeah, it's fine. Like that's a perfectly good combo for Knights of Castle Rock. I have nothing really to add to all that. The problem? Problem's twofold. I can imagine Tywin just being a nightmare to play into. Tywin and Pycelle, there's just be that many weakened tokens out, you're just going to be like, oh my god, this is awful. Everything is always weakened. Which is real sad if you hit on force. So you have to play a game that requires not attacking to win. The actual thing with Exploit Weakness is like, it kind of helps Knights of Castle Rock charges. But I think Kevin kind of already did that anyway, with the double token for completing an action. But that's more reactive. This is more proactive, so that's always a good thing. Removing reroll terrain, very commonly used against Knights of Castle Rock. So yeah, that's a positive. Can be used on the Exploit Weakness issue commands turn, so you can kind of like threaten issue commands, exploit weakness. It's a big expenditure of resources, but it's nice. I guess my all in all though is I don't know if I rate Kevin or Tywin higher. They're different now, but I don't know if I think Tywin or Kevin is better, and I don't think Tywin is as good as Roose. So without any other changes happening, I think Tywin just becomes a different flavour of Kevin. And I'm not really sure which way I would go. Yeah, Howard kind of says it doesn't think this incarnation of Tywin sees play. The one thing is that I think this incarnation of Tywin will be better than the previous ones, which have been dog tier garbage. So, yeah. We'll see. We will see. That be Lannisters. We then move into the last faction here, which is those that give us joy. Those that give us joy. They are completely reworking Greyjoys. by the sounds of it. All Greyjoys are losing their pillage mechanic ability, and they are gaining some form of pillage mechanic ability. I know it sounds really weird, right? They lose one and they gain another. So specifically, the ruling on this: each time a House Greyjoy unit destroys an enemy rank with a melee attack, it gains a pillage token. You can have up to 2 at any one time. This is any House Greyjoy unit. That unit will gain the following benefits. At 1 morale token, or 1 pillage token I should say, you gain +1 to your morale tests. Not panic tests, morale tests. Pretty good. Global Embolden. It's pretty good. At 2, you get +1 attack dice. That's pretty good as well. That's pretty good. You then have abilities tied to pillage relating to the individual unit. So you can see here, Reavers, if it has 2 pillage tokens, it can reroll any attack dice. Pretty good. Furious Charge. Buff to Greyjoy Ironborn Reavers. Reaver Axes move to a native 3+. Buff to Reavers. They have clearly just taken Reavers and just made them better. Like, there is nothing that isn't just better about Reavers here. To all those Greyjoy fans who are rejoicing, just remember we've only seen 1 card so far. Never underestimate Seamon's ability to giveth with one hand and taketh away with the other. Yeah, and this is kind of the problem, isn't it? In that, like, this isn't Greyjoys, this is 1 unit. Bowman may not be able to generate pillage tokens anymore, in which case, sadness. But at least our units aren't just worse now, until they're better. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. I don't know which way they're going to go. And I actually made a comment which was quite funny, because they said they'd read their exact wording was, "We have reworked all units with pillage." And I went, "Now that's not all." They didn't say all units. They said all units with pillage. So I asked this question. You would need to look at units without pillage too, because this ability, this Raiders of the Iron Islands, affects all units. All Greyjoy units. So they would therefore need to rework all of the units that don't currently have pillage, as well as the ones that do. They only said that they were reworking the ones that did have pillage. I was very, very scared, and I do mean very scared, that this would affect all units in Greyjoys without them having looked at it. I genuinely thought I was going to get, like, Black Tide Chosen on, like, a base, like, 6, but in Bolton 5, but Raiders of the Iron Islands 4, and 8 dice on 3s with a reroll and a vulnerable. Yeah. Num num nums. I was suddenly very scared. I was scared that, and it sounds really weird, but, like, drowned men getting an extra dice or reducing to 3 morale base. You're not killing drowned men unless you're rolling 8 dice now. Rip. Oh man, like, there was so many things about this. I was like, you've got to do something. There's also the opportunities. Oh, Greyjoy Bowman only collect the tokens and melee attacks, but, like, every Greyjoy Bowman unit currently could be up to, you gain your pillage tokens for doing it with range attacks. And if you're doing it with range attacks and you're getting the +1 dice, 7 dice. 7 dice. Nuts. Nuts. Carla says, very bold of me to assume that these changes will be out before US Nationals. I have to admit, I didn't realise someone had said that. I certainly hadn't. I said that, well, if they get them out by September, and I guess that is before US Nationals. Late September. They might miss US Nationals. I don't know. October. Yeah, that would be the dumb thing, wouldn't it, Kellen? Drop it the week before, and we all scramble to get new lists. Fun. No, I don't know. I have no idea when they're going to release it. We will see. I would be surprised if they dropped it before US Nationals, just because I don't think that's the kind of thing that CMON will do. Actually, no, it is exactly the thing that CMON will do. Yeah, it's coming on that, like, 100% that week, and we'll only get half of it. Otherwise, it's going to really impact not... Now, if they drop it at US Nationals, LGT is going to have an absolute goddamn nightmare, which is 2 weeks later. We'll have to see. I'm not making no guesses. It's never going to be a good time to release it. There are better times than there are worse times, I'll tell you that. So, anyway. Oh, otherwise I'm going to be running US. Yeah, no, that was my comment initially that I made. I said I'll be running Greyjoys at US Nationals, or ruining US Nationals. That's because at this point they hadn't actually said when it was releasing, and I had wrongly assumed when I wrote this comment that the update might be coming out in the next kind of 2 or 3 weeks. But no, I was wrong. So yeah, there we go. Those are the updates. Those are the changes. It's interesting. It's fun. We'll see how it all pans out. Yeah, I have no idea what the game will lead to. It looks like they are addressing things that are underperforming though, but it's really weird because like Telecavaliers weren't underperforming, and they've addressed them, but they've addressed them with an ability that helps Starks overall. So are they going to actually address them? Or are they just saying they're addressing them and making things better? Thornwatch weren't massively underperforming. So, you know, Tywin, 100%. Like, I mean, where is Tywin? Let's go back up to Commanders. Where are we? Bottom of Commanders. I'm not even going to look at the whole Commander list here. Don't even load it up. I'm going to guess that he is still near the bottom of the Commander list. Wow, I think this might actually be the highest position Tywin's ever been. Because he's not in the bottom 20. There we go. He's 81st. He's minus 42. Yeah, practically playable. No, he's by far the worst. I think Gregor's even been making a climb. I think Tywin is the worst Greyjoy, Lannister commander. Can't wait for Night's Watch buffs to Spear Invest. Yeah. So I mean, if we let's look at Baratheon quickly. Let's look at Baratheon units. So where are Thornwatch? Thornwatch minus 69 points. Yeah, so they're not doing that well actually. I lie. They're underperforming compared to Rose Knights. Rainbow Guard. No one plays them. But they are overperforming compared to something like the Riders of Highgarden, which are 6-point units slot in Renly side. And massively more than Baratheon Sentinels. So the highest performing 6-point unit in the Baratheon side. That doesn't say much. Renly side. That doesn't say much. Champions of Stag, of course, absolutely pushing the lead there. But like Starks, House Telecavaliers are doing fine. You know what I mean? She-Bears, even though they're dropped off the pace, are doing fine. And that's one of the units that benefit the most from the Telecavalier change. Who else we got? Reavers. Yeah, Reavers are shite. Yeah, Reavers are shite. So it's good. They got some help. And Reavers still the worst rated unit in the game? Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. I say still. They overtook Mountain's Men. Mountain's Men were bad, and they overtook them. Which says a lot about how bad Reavers are. God, there's some right trash down here. And some really good stuff. I mean, these are obviously on a bit of recovery, I think. There's some decent stuff down here as well. Stuff that I actually play. And look at them like, Jesus, that does poorly. No, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, they've clearly addressed what is bad stuff, things that's perhaps underplayed or bad. We'll see. You know, it's hard to analyze from what was 3 unit changes and 1 commander change. Like, it's really hard to analyze that across the whole game. And and it seems to suggest that they are changing tactics cards if they need to. They're changing units. They're changing basically everything. So there's nothing sacred anymore. Like, nothing is sacred. And that's really odd because it means something like Black Tide Chosen are like potentially up for change again, and they've just received a change, and they're going to just be changed again very soon after. This does make me feel a little bit like they realized they needed to nerf Mance, and they kind of went, let's nerf Mance, and we won't change his tactics cards because that's too difficult, so we'll just make him worse. And then they just did some other stuff as well, and they went, let's just change some other stuff and make that worse as well because it's like a problem for the game. That's what it felt last patch is now feeling like now. It felt like an emergency kind of like, which in hindsight, yeah, it does look a lot like that now that you think about it, especially when they talk about like this being a big rework of a lot of things. And that would also explain the half feeling that we got from the last update as well. And also the very rushed nature of it, and that kind of like, oh, by the way, we're releasing an update in a couple of weeks. Oh, cool. And then they release it like the next day. And we were like, what the hell? You told us about this like a week ago. And you just did it. Yeah, that was weird. Maybe. See my monitor stats and cherry pick one top rated unit and bottom tier unit. They tweak one of each and hope for the best. Maybe Randall. They're still going to focus on buffing commanders with this update. Yeah, good. New commanders is good because changing commanders up means new things to play with and people feel more empowered to try things out, and that's a good thing. People can, by the way, people can try things out anyway. It's the fact that people feel empowered to try things out. That's actually what you want. They want more commanders to be viable. Yep, Stephen. Last patch felt like, oh shoot, we are less than a month out from when we said we'd release the patch. Better start working on it. A little bit data. Tim, hey guys, anything interesting happening in Seoul? Well, yeah. That's all you're getting from me. Cool. All right. I don't have much to add, really. Cool. Oh. And well, there you go. It's the little things, right? It's good days and bad days. I am definitely going to US Nationals now. I've had the confirmation come through of what I needed to be confirmed. So yeah, I'll be attending US Nationals. So yeah, that's cool. I'll book my train tickets tonight. Not train tickets, flights. I'll book my flights tonight, and we'll finally get to meet Adam and the guys face to face and talk to them. Just like Carlo did, right? I'm just following in Carlo's glorious, rather large footsteps. How about Carly is awesome? No, that's not true. This community can't give you hope for the future of the game, Crones. Yeah. And I say that with a bit of dejection, don't I? Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. It did give me hope for the future. And I guess this is why I'm sad. And I am sad, to tell you the truth. It gave me hope for the future. But I think face to belly button. I hate you, Dan. I do think that it's one of those things like, you know, the term "miss the boat," right? In that, I think it's fantastic of the improvements they're making, the balancing they're doing, the updating of the game, that whole side of it. But I think they've missed the boat in that I think it's all too late. I think that it's just a little bit behind where it needed to be, and I'm not going to sit here and say that my enthusiasm has gone for the game. Not at all. Actually, my enthusiasm to play is still quite high. I enjoy playing the game, but my enthusiasm for everything else around it just isn't there anymore. You know, not like it used to be. And maybe it'll come back in a couple months' time or something. But like, you know, I wouldn't miss a week. I wouldn't dare miss a week of like Tourney Ground. I know it sounds really weird, but like, unless it was like a pre-pan miss week, or we couldn't make it, or whatever, or didn't have a guest, or something. If there wasn't a reason to miss it, I wouldn't miss Tourney Ground. And yet last week, you know, I sat there, and I know there was other things going on, but like, I sat there with everything open, with everything basically ready to go live, plan it in, and write a comment, and I just didn't. I just didn't. And I didn't feel bad for it. That's the thing. I actually didn't feel bad that I didn't say anything. I just completely ignored it, and it felt good, and that's a good thing for me. It's not a good thing for creating content, right? Gotta buff the YouTube algorithm. Gotta get those likes, subscribes. And by the way, if you haven't liked or subscribed to this video, do that now. No, I'm not a sellout. Maybe I am a sellout. Jesus. Does anyone want to buy me? Is that how sellouts work? No. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I just think it's missed the trick, the hype from the really, you know, the content creators out there that really love making the content and really have pushed really hard. They kind of dropped off a little bit. Sunday Slaughter, for example, he's stopped making the videos that he makes. They've got it's Chris, isn't it? And one Chris Henning, yeah, Chris Henning from Germany now doing some stuff for them, which is, you know, great, but it's, you know, not Chris Tran, it's not Sunday Slaughter. It's not the guys that people enjoyed and people saw, and you know, Sunday Slaughter was never really about just Sunday Slaughter. It was on the YouTube channel and the bat reps. It was about the quality of the bat reps, and it was about the it was about the people on them, right? The people that liked, in part. So yeah, there's that. We're seeing a slowdown in other aspects, and you know, you still got Small Council Radio and Dave putting in the work, but like, and he's busy right now. He's got lots of things going on, especially with the new kid. But like, the number of episodes they reduce has gone down. Producers has gone down. The Tabletop Warden guys, it's been great to see them step back up into the plate a little bit more. They've started doing some live streams with Yannick, Ilya, and Sebastian, bartender. So yeah, it's fantastic to see that as well, because those are three great guys, and it's great to see them doing stuff and feeling empowered to do stuff. But for a long time they weren't. You know, for a long time they weren't really doing much. The Rotterdam White Scars are still pumping stuff out, so that's good. But they're feeling a bit disillusioned by it all. So, you know, give them a support where you can, because they really need it. Tyson Yoren putting in good work trying to bring content regularly. You've got, you know, the other smaller ones like Randall from Imperial Minis and other groups over there in the US. Like Warpforged, I think stopped. Maybe I don't know, right? DMG's had a bit of a drop recently. We'll see. We will see, right? I'm positive. I am actually positive for the future of the game, but I think it's just missed the boat, and it's almost like the next generation of creators and the next people coming up will continue making stuff, and the game will continue. But yeah, for me and some of the stuff that I originally wanted to do and some of the ideas that I'd had, I just don't have the motivation for. To be honest, that's the simple truth. Is effectively I can't be bothered, and I'm not afraid to say that anymore. We'll see. Carlo's making a lot of progress. Well, I say he's making a lot of progress. He's been on holiday. He's been making a good amount of progress, as far as I'm aware, on the new version of the website. Before anyone asks, no, I don't have an ETA. He's the guy developing it, not me. So ask him. he's been on holiday. I'm sure he didn't do much work when he was away. And I know he's had a couple of issues that he's been trying to deal with it as well, like things he wasn't happy with or coding changes and stuff like that. It's a really big update that he's doing to the website. I don't know if he's in chat and he feels like he can give an ETA. That'd be amazing. But I know that he's really not looking for the next few. I'd be surprised, and this is kind of crazy. I'd be surprised if Carlo commits to 2023 even. I don't know if he's got any update on that, but yeah. I'm not playing something soon. I have another kid on the way in days. Oh wow, Randall, Jesus. I have a few games recorded, so there shouldn't be a dearth of content from me. Fantastic, love to see that. And yeah, Rotterdam White Scars and Yicat's Miniatures now putting out regular content as well with their faction breakdowns, replacing what was 3 Cells Gaming now that he's moved on. Yeah, it's not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. I think it's just, for my motivation particularly, I might be going through a Carlo stage, if you call it that, where Carlo was this time last year. But Crones, I know Kurt, Micah, and myself want to get into the battle report scene. You definitely should. Saying that, I've actually got a game that I'm potentially going to do a voiceover for because I think it's interesting. So, clearly I'm talking bollocks. I talk bollocks all the time, don't I? That's the thing. Data. Yeah, we could go shoot them up. No, I wouldn't shoot the armies up. I spend too much time painting them, and they're not even fully painted. That's how long it takes me to paint. Yeah, no, I'm not fully out of the game. Don't worry, I'm not sitting here being all kind of like nego completely. I think it's just a dip, and it's because I enjoy the game for what the game is, and the discussions that we used to have on Mondays used to be interesting and I don't think there's much to discuss at the moment. I feel like most of the lessons have been taught, or the information's out there. Yeah, I don't know. I think all the information. If you want to get better, the information is there. And if you want to learn about the game, the information is there. And if you want to watch bat reps, that's not really my thing anyway. I hate bat reps, as probably people know. But like that's out there. I'm the news outlet, right? And when news is slow, then the news doesn't need to be there. And that's the thing, is that when I'll still keep going, but it doesn't need to be every week, does it? Carly says do a terrain video, for the love of God, please. I'm sure I did a terrain video not long ago. Brian says that's the lack of mammoths. Yeah, to be fair, I'm probably feeling down in the dumps because I've been running a lot of drowned men recently. So I'm kind of like soaked in my own sadness. No, that's not how that works. Salt water. Maybe I'm salty. Am I salty? No, I'm not salty. All's good. Tactics Insight episodes. Right. Game's felt so for a while. It has. No, it's all right, Cones. It's all right. It's good. It's good. Questions are questions, and that's what they're for. Yeah, Tactics Insight videos. It's really interesting, Zeodicus, in that I think one of the hardest things in this game to explain, and I'm going to try it very succinctly here. There are no tactics. Does that make sense? Kind of. Maybe I'm just oversimplifying it, but there are no real tactics. It's just abilities and how they work together. And if you know how abilities synergize or don't synergize, you can use them independently or with one another. if you know what your opponent's abilities are, and by abilities I am talking about tactics cards here as well. I know I use the term ability, but tactics cards are just effectively hidden one-off abilities. Like, there isn't. It's about just using your abilities to the most that you can use them, right? If you're paying for an ability, use it to the most effectiveness that you can. And there are tactics, right? There are tactics you can employ, if you will, but it's nothing that's really like taught, right? It's stuff that's just interactions. If you go away and learn the interactions, you will pick up the tactics. They're not. If anything, all I can do is show you things you perhaps never thought of before. I'll show you one. Here you go. Random tactics spoiler for you. Or yeah. Excuse my stream being ever so slightly slow right now. I'm loading up TTS to show you a particular thing that you may or may not want to do in the future, right? Now this is a free folk tactic. It's just a thing, right? An individual piece of gameplay. It's by no means going to be accessible for all games, but actually it's incredibly important if you're a Lannister player, or a Baratheon player, or a Stark player, or another free folk player. I'm trying to think who else does it affect. Pretty much no one else. Nice watch. Right, anyway. Effectively, anyone who regularly runs solos, this is a real big thing that you need to watch out for, right? In my opinion. Okay? So, I'll load up TTS and just show you what I mean. Yeah, it's a game about rough maths, coupled with knowledge and abilities, and exploiting enemy misplays while minimizing your own. Yep. The biggest thing you struggle with quick decisions. Yeah, and get faster, more play. That's actually the biggest thing that I think you improve with playing more games. I am not a person who believes that playing more games makes you better. I don't believe that. Like, I fundamentally just don't believe that that's true. Because I see people who are very well, they play a lot of games, and they're not better players for it. Like, playing games and getting better are two mutually different things. Playing games gives you the opportunity to be better. I do believe that. Like, the opportunity to learn and develop and take away something from a game so you can go away and be better at the game is thoroughly possible when you play a game. Like, you can learn, you can be a better player after the game. Just playing the game doesn't make you better, right? Like, the passive learning element of playing games is actually like super low. Otherwise, like, people with like 1 million chess games would be like 4,000 ELO. I know, yes, it could be people don't get to 1 million chess games, but like, there are some people who play a lot of chess, like hundreds of games, who are just really still quite bad at it. So, the best way to get better at the game is to argue about rules. Yeah. 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 Randall says people sing all their life and people still garbage. Yeah. Exactly. I've tried to grow all my life and I'm still short. No, that's something completely different. Oh well. So let's swap over to the game. There we go. Right, I'm gonna have to move my stream over to the other window monitor. So here's a board, and let's load up Free Folk, and I'll load up Lannister as well because I originally kind of like predicated this around a specific tactic or game that my opponent was doing at the time. So we'll load up masters. And yes, I'm using the second best commander in the game, the best commander by most people's metrics in Varamir. But it is something that I think you can abuse and just be aware of, perhaps. Yeah. Right. So let's have a look. Where are we? Shadowcat. There we go. Shadowcat. Wolfpack. Varamir. We will bring into the game the Mountain of Rides. And then I'll just spawn a bunch of red cloaks in because no one cares. Right. And we'll spawn a bunch of these in. Oh, where are we? Where's Raiders? Because, there you go. You know where we stand with Raiders. There's billions of them. Okay, right. So your opponent has... I'm not going to place any terrain on the board. I can't be bothered. It doesn't help this particular tactic explanation. So you've got a bunch of things there, and there. And some people like to deploy a solo like this at the side of the board. Now, I spoke about why this is potentially not a good thing. But hey-ho. So let's say you've got something like this. They're about 12 inches, 10 inches on, aren't they? Insert random game mode here. It really doesn't matter. So, depending on the order of your opponent, you might want to deploy something like this. Yeah? You might even bring this unit over here. Okay? Now, if you are the Varamir player, and if you have a card in your opening hand, which is before round 1, that reads, let's get out Varamir's tactics cards so you can see the one I mean. This one. Summon Companions. Yeah? This is a goddamn deadly card for this unit right here. So, start of the game. You watch out for this. I will deploy, literally round 1, I'll deploy my Shadowcat over here. Yeah? Maybe he's a bit further up. Something like that. And we play through the rounds, and you're out activated. Let's say the round 1 ends up something like over here, right? They've activated all these but the mountain. I've activated here. Won't be in their march range, for example. Let's say I'm marching a bunch of shit up. Maybe you Val move over there, things like that. Maybe here's to here, or I don't know. Okay. Your opponent activates the mountain, right? Or the solo they've put at the edge of the board. This could be a direwolf, it could be Cold Hands, although Cold Hands is less effective for it, of course, because killing him is pointless a little bit. It could be a Watch Marshal, it could be Jaw the Explorer, it could be anything like those components in the game, right? Anything that's a small point solo, even Dragonstone Nobles, right? And he brings it forward. He is in for a world of hurt. Start a turn, summon Companions, the Wolf's unactivated, bang. You can charge in the rear on your own turn. You can even pull your Shadowcat or other unit into the front. You got 2 units in short range because you deploy this literally just behind. 2 units in short range. You might be able to put a token on there. Bang, you're in. More importantly, and the reason I mentioned this is I used to call it the mountain trap for the exact reason of Kevin can't even predictable maneuvers you on the start of the next turn, because if you're going first on round 1, then sorry, if they're going first on round 1 and you're going first on round 2, then they can play predictable maneuvers, and if you do, they can't target Gregor with predictable maneuvers because your wolf pack is cancelling that. So their predictable maneuvers at best could be used to like do that, or do a ranged attack somewhere over here. Let's say they're shooting. And even if they do this, you still just go, cool, I'll take the swords, I'll make a second attack in the rear against your unit. At that point, there wouldn't have been any intervention. It's highly unlikely they would spend a Tycho or a Kevin into you, not like they would, once per game. And you can start round 2, and that solo is no longer on the board. Depending on their position, you can reposition here. Yes, you spent a card, one of your better cards, but your opponent's just down an activation now, and it's a key activation. They can no longer like do significant damage with, clean these things up, whatever. It's a significant benefit to you, and it just throws the opponent off. Like, this unit's now facing the wrong way. You control a lot more space on the board now by nature of not having to worry as much about your opponent, and that's kind of the way I see it. And the chances are is that you'll end up with like something like this. They're not going to be over here. Maybe they are. Maybe they're here. But like, here's the midpoint, and if you can push up, depending on their activation sequencing and where they kind of sit, you control over half the board, and that's all that matters. Controlling over half the board is going to lead to wins, generally speaking. Just don't risk it all in doing so. So there you go. There's a little tactic there. Other tactics may or may not include, but again, it's a rule interaction, not a tactic. You know what I mean? So it's a literal rule interaction rather than a tactic per se. Let's get rid of free folk. And let's talk about one of the most simple tactics you can. Here's actually a challenge. Let's see what people know. My opponent is running... Let's give ourselves guardsmen. A unit of guardsmen. And I will actually need an objective-based scenario. Let's get out Game of Thrones, because... Oh, Honing Ready I'll do. We've got Honing Ready. And we've got, let's say, guardsmen, and we're going to run against it Mountains Men. Just for argument's sake, right? Okie dokie. This unit is more expensive than this unit. They are facing off, that is it. Let's assume there's no tactics cards or anything else going on. Let's assume there's no terrain. Now, terrain is a discussion we can have another day. Let's say you've got NCUs on the tactics board. Let's get out some NCUs. Let's give both players, I don't know. It's completely irrelevant for this. Let's give both players... Let's just give both players Baelish. Lots of Baelishes. I'll just use Tywin for now. Right, you've got a bunch of Baelishes. For the sake of the argument. Right? We're making it as simple as we can. Right, and you've got a bunch of tactics cards in your hand. Let's copy the base deck. Flip it over. Now, what is the correct play? Does anybody know what the correct play, in my opinion, is? Let's say you're this army, or this army. I personally believe, right nowadays, there is a correct set plays here. It does depend a little bit on your enemy army composition as well, like range units and things like that. But basically, the Mountains Men player should go first. Right? And you're probably saying, oh, you know, start the game, take letters. No, you just lost. I feel attacked. Don't take letters. No, big mistake. Tywin horses. NCU horses. Move 5. This guardsman unit just lost the game. Right? When you march... that's ready the objective. You can take the objective. And if you angled it right, if you positioned it right... There we go. And you're probably thinking, Jesus, this looks like a horrific angle. But first of all, if they march, they will end in your front. They're still charging you in the front. Right? And yeah, you open up this flank to a bunch of other stuff, right? But you don't really care. You've got friends over here that's going to support you, right? This is fine. Second of all, you notice that? That is a 1-inch retreat. And you still control the token. That is not a 1-inch retreat. Oh, Sadness. Right? You can't quite do it. I do think it's basically impossible to do with a movement 5 unit. But it's damn near close. Let's see if I can actually get it right. I think you want to be here. So just slightly offset. Basically, you want your 3rd rank lined up with it. I think that's about right. And then we go 15, don't we? 10. You do the 5 first. And then you do the 10. Or 5. You do the 5 first, that's right. Then you pivot. You have to pivot slightly less. There. 1 inch back. No, I need to go further. There. 1 inch back. No, I've fucked it up. Too far over now. Very precise. Which I know a lot of players don't really want to do. That's far too far over. I'll just do it the other way. I'll just do the angle the other way. So 10. Let's just budge him over slightly to there. Then do the 5. Let's actually stall that. So there's the 10, here's the 5. Yep, so you want to be off center, but not far off center. And anyway, then you make the pivot. Hopefully. Done this right. There's the 1 inch retreat there. Now I lose the 1 inch retreat on the front. Fair enough. I can't do it right now because apparently I'm pretty bad at this game. But you can make it so at least one of them is going to be guaranteed to be a retreat of 1 inch. Now you're probably thinking, God, Mickey, this is a hell of a lot of work for what is essentially like a non-important thing. And I'm like, well, the whole point of this is actually that it's hugely important. You actually have to pivot further over. So there. No, I have to rearrange it anyway. Back to where I showed it at the start anyway. But you went first on round 1. Yeah, you can do it if you start in exactly the right deployment spot, someone says there. You just have to measure it, and I can't measure it off the top of my head. But anyway, this is really important, right? Because on round 2, let's actually just leave that there for a second. On round 2, they move up 8. It now flips. This player's first. And we both do our activations. And I'm like, oh, horses to your flank. And I'm like, cool. Well, I'll just take the letters now then. And now I'll just weaken you. Gave my tokens. Oh, but our bag's up. Cool. I've got the tokens now. Don't really care. I'll charge you in the flank. Bang, I'm in. Because they have to charge you, because let's face it, NCU's ordering matters. Put them there. They open up their own flank. And then your chance of being deleted are really low. And you retreat 1 inch. If you retreat 1 inch, you can also pivot. And I think you can stay out of the 1 inch rule. And voila. You now control the middle objective. Your opponent with a defensive unit, it's a movement 4 speed unit, has to now push you off, which probably doesn't have you don't have the power to push a unit off easily. You can invest resources in healing yourself up. Start an next turn, you might just take bags. You know, sure, if there's range units in the game, it gets more complicated because you're going to be shooting each other, right? But like, this is the kind of thing you can do. And all of a sudden, this unit is going to be really struggling. Vice versa. Let's recall these guys back to where they were. If you are a movement 4 unit and you want to get to the middle objective first, you can't. Take horses. If your opponent takes letters first, you move the 4. Oops. And then you move the 8. Sadness. Do you know what the cool thing about this, though, is? If your opponent took letters first, or you went first and took horses, and they take letters, they can only go 10 forward, generally speaking. If they've got Val, and this is part of the reason I think Free Flag are broken, because they can actually do this regardless of what you do, because of game state, with a 4-point unit. because they can do that and then val up to here and control the token, which means you have to push now. Round 2 starts, right? First player swaps. Let's put some Tywins over there. Should make them different colours, shouldn't I? They should take horses and do this. However, if they took letters first and you're first player, you can take horses. And you can do that. That's very dominant. And you're like, what on earth are you doing? You're giving your opponent the charge. Yeah, I know. Diagonal wall placement. Block the terrain. Potentially don't even need an angle. There are multiple ways you can angle this, and I won't go through all of the potential angles. But yeah, you can position yourself like so. Got an inch retreat, still control the token. You may have an inch retreat here, you don't quite, so my angle's a little bit off. You might have to actually angle it a little bit like this to get it perfectly spot on. Pivot by a small amount and then back off a little bit. We've got an inch retreat there. How much room have we got? We've got that extra room. So you go right up to the edge there, and then move forward an inch. And now, that's where you want to be at that angle. You're protected on all 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, with that piece of terrain. And if you retreat, you're still protected on all 4 quadrants, so your opponent would have to charge through terrain twice. Forest could also be used. Wall is the best, because wall removes rerolls and gives you +1. Forest just gives you the +1. There you go. Your opponent now has to remove your unit. And I don't really want to charge a unit of Lancer Guardsmen across a wall. I don't really want to charge a unit of Blackguard across a wall. I don't really want to charge many things across a wall. If you do this in the opening 2 rounds of the game, with the right setup, with the right kind of stuff in motion in play, you can win the game. Because your opponent is forced to have to do something that they don't want to have to do. And that is all you need to do in this game. Is this a tactic? Not really. This is just getting the most out of your units. If you're movement 4, and I see you playing Baratheons, and your instinctive thing is to go, well, I'll take the letters first round, you've got to be a damn good player who knows what they're doing, perhaps dominating with Lightbringers, which is fine, to prove to me that you know what your movement you've got to really prove to me you know what you're doing by doing this. And I say, your list might allow me to know that, but most of the time, bang. And then Range of Vanguard in the rear, of course, yeah, and then you just put Range of Vanguard in the rear. Where's the unit of Night Scarsy Rock that'll do? Boom. Hello. I am here to kill you. Anyway, I've nattered on far too much about random tactics and random things. Maybe I should do more of these videos, but more succinctly. Maybe I should write scripts. I've heard that's something that people do nowadays. But yeah, I'll go through some tactical stuff maybe in the future. Discuss some other areas and yeah, generally show that off. Alright then. So, I appreciate you all listening to my rambling and garbage. So, let's move on to the last thing of today. I've got some zeros to give out. Now, these are for it's been in chat actually, Gem, Gorgoroth on Discord had sent me these a while ago and being like, oh, got any of those zeros? Gorgoth, sorry, not Gorgoroth. Got any zeros, and I'd love to show you what is my newly painted Martell army. So we've got Martell Spearman. I say it's in chat there. Gem's in chat. And I'm not going to give this a 0 because there's a few features we'll run through. And nice, simple, straightforward, kind of like straightforward paint job. Nothing too much, nothing too clever, just exactly what it needs to be. And this is the first time he's fully painted an army, believe it or not. Right, so Yeah, huge kudos there. People don't get through fully painted armies. So, the most important question is, what is it I have is, what is your favourite species and ship in FTL? I'll answer that at the end, Crones. We've got our Martel Royal Guard. Again, fairly straightforward paint job, but I really like the basing on these. I mean, the consistency in the basing, as well as the right amount of sparseness on the basing, is brilliant. Also, surprise spider. Snake. I'm a snake. Slippy snake. So yeah, like, really love the bases on these. And the paint job's nice as well. It's clean. We've got the commanders there, or say commanders, but NCUs / commanders. We've got Ulla, we've got Ilaria, Oberyn, and Doran with his wheelchair, and the banners, which are nicely painted. Actually, I really like those banners. Those banners really work quite well. I don't think the light is giving them justice because they're slightly angled down, with a little bit more bright. Kind of, you'd really get the orange stand out there. I think it's just the angle the photo was taken at, but that's fine. I think that's really nice. Spearlord there as well. The June Vipers with a different type of kind of thing going on, as well as a little scorpion. Love it. The June Vipers, and there is something on here that he says from another game, from another franchise, and I do wonder what it is, and I couldn't work it out. I don't know if he's going to tell me, but there's something on the June Viper base that's from another franchise. Is it Dark Elves? Has he used Dark Elves somewhere on here? Or Dark Eldar or something? I feel like it's a very Dark Elf, Dark Eldar type thing when I look at it. But yeah, cool. Love those. We've next up got the Flame Men. Of course, Flame Men done in old basing. Love the extra skeleton, by the way, on the base here. And the conversions on the Flame Men. Man with a big hammer. I honestly thought I was converted, but it was just brilliant. The blood staining as well. And finally, the last one that he added to his retinue, the Knights, the Starfall Knights as well, with a nice little purple, royal purple going on as well with them. The Cubone Skull. Ah, right, okay. Cube 1, Cub 1. Nice. Is that on the Vipers? Hang on. Where am I? Shouldn't have swapped everything around on my desktop when I loaded up thingy. I don't see it on the June Vipers there. Oh, is it that one? Yeah. No, it's cool. It's real cool. Overall, that is multiple zeros on there as well. Multiple zeros from me, as I would have it. And well done. Well done for obviously painting an army as well. Fully painting an army. Middle left, he says. Right, middle left. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Well done for fully painting an army. 0 from me, buddy. 0 from me. No extra height as well. These are respectable 0. Carlo would respect these because there's no extra added height to the units. So yeah, well respected. All right, let's run through some events and then we'll call it a day. So, what we got coming up? We've got In the Light of the Seven, the Lower Austrian Championship. Awesome. The Austrian group has been relatively quiet, but they kind of come out every now and then. But it's good to see an event happening in Austria. Hard facts. I love it when people translate sometimes. It's brilliant. Cool. So obviously, I really hope that goes well for the Austrian group this weekend. We've got another event happening in the Bolton Reclaw guys in Poland. An event happening at the Galacti Gear. It's not one I've seen before, but Proskal does ring a bell. Don't recognise it though. We've got an event happening in Katowice in Poland again, fantastic, and another event happening in Gdansk by the Chrome guys in Poland as well. We've got the Atlantic City Open. We'll have a little look at that in a second. The second annual battle at the foot of Old Black Mountain. I remember the first annual battle at the foot of Old Black Mountain. Jesus, that's a mouthful. But it's good to see that happening in Johnson, Tennessee. Another qualifier for US regionals happening in Augusta in ME. Is that ME? Where's ME? Manchester, ME, Maine. Okay, Maine. I thought Maine was something else. Cool. But event happening in Maine as well. Fantastic for another regional event there. We've got the Forge event is running in Houston, Texas. The Forge guys having their June joust, as they call it. Good to see the Forge keep playing. We've got an event happening in the City of Mexico again. The Mexican group being consistent with events. So that's fantastic to see, actually, the Mexico's running events regularly now. Brilliant. We've got Shanghai Fight Club returning for June 2023. Good to see Shanghai Fight Club going again. We've got the guys at the Calais Escudos in Rota. I believe they've run an event before. Yes, that's good to see them appear up again. We've got the Game of Dislikes. Vertes, the Game of Dislikes, happening in Utterpleischfield in Germany. Good to see. Another one happening in Poland, this time the Lublin group, having their Summertime Slaughterhouse. Brilliant name. The Poznan group having their event at a 30-point event, the Wargame Poznan group. We've got a starter set tourney. That's next weekend. That's next weekend as well. I don't count them, but that's Wednesday next week. I'll give them the blessing. But what? One, if you include the ones at the weekend, so not Poznan. Sorry, Poznan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 events happening this week, which is brilliant. Let's have a look at Atlantic City Open. They've got... how many people have they actually got signed up? Oh, they haven't administered them yet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 people going along. Fantastic. We've got Monsters and Munchkins. We've got Evil Morty. I know he's around a lot. We've got Red Standard. Good to see him. Willy Bunks. Good. Sheehan. Quite a common one to see around as well. Sort of Stovetop. Good old Stovey. But yeah, looking like a really good event. Really looking like a good 18-player event for ACO, which is a respectable number for the US. Really hope that goes really well. A couple of Canadians as well making the trip. Gotta love it. All right. So I really hope that event in New Jersey goes well in the Atlantic City Open. I am really looking forward to seeing the US scene grow over the next kind of months towards the US Nationals. Really looking forward to coming over to the US as well and just generally playing the game some more. Less talk, more play, as they say. But yeah. And at that point, guys, I'll leave it here. I've just realised I've been leaning off camera the whole time. It's comfortable sitting, isn't it? But yeah, I hope you all have a fantastic week. I hope you have a great time playing some more games. Sunday's Slaughter is going to be streaming from ACO as well, potentially. So check out Stefan and the stream that he puts on over the weekend. Really looking forward to seeing some of that. Generally enjoy Stefan's streaming, even if not for just it's good to see, which is nice. But yeah, we'll leave it there, of course. And I hope you all have great weeks, great weekends. I'll probably be back next week to talk more about the game and to chat with you guys, and maybe I'll do tactics or something like that, or terrain. If people want me to do terrain, I'll do terrain. Okay, there's my promise. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy.
Ready? Aim!
There's too many.
Anyone see my mammoth?